Storm has always been viewed as a revolutionary character, in large part due to her identity as a black female superhero. Storm is widely understood to be one of the first black female superheroes and was the first black leader of a mainstream American superhero team. Storm's racial identity has been used in a variety of ways within the Claremont run to various degrees of success and sensitivity. One of the more problematic attempts was within one of the most iconic Storm-centered stories of the Claremont run, the Life-Death saga. Within Life Death Part 1 and Part 2, Storm's race and color were used to reinforce a colorist ideology surrounding both beauty standards and racial identity. To understand the issues with life, death, and colorism, it's important to first establish what is colorism and how does it differ from racism. In her foundational piece titled The Persistent Problem of Colorism, Skin Tone, Status, and Inequality, Scarlett Margaret Hunter outlines this framework by stating that systems of racial discrimination operate on at least two levels, race and color. The first system of discrimination is the level of a racial category. Regardless of physical appearance, African Americans of all skin tones are subject to certain kinds of discrimination, degeneration, and second-class citizenship, simply because they are African American. Racism in this form is systemic and has both ideological and material consequences. The second system of discrimination, what I'm calling colorism, is at the level of skin tone, darker skin or lighter skin. She continues by saying that racism is a larger systemic social process, and colorism is one manifestation of it. In Life Death Part 1, Storm is framed in a way that had not been previously utilized for her character, as a love interest. Prior to the Life Death saga, Storm has rejected any form of romance and has been staunch in her independent status. However, after being depowered and cared for by Forge, she opens herself up to the potential to be viewed as a romantic partner. This is in part comes from her being portrayed as a more feminine and vulnerable character. Although this is in itself can be viewed as a natural evolution of her character, what becomes problematic here is the visual strategy used to portray this, specifically lightening her skin. Light skin is a major element of basically every global beauty standard. Hunter outlines the intersection between lightness and beauty standards in the US by saying, many people are unaware of their preferences for lighter skin, because that's the dominant aesthetic, so deeply ingrained in our culture. In the US, for example, we are bombarded with images of white and light skin and Anglo-facial features. White beauty is the standard and the ideal. Although in the majority of the comic, Storm's coloring remains consistent with previous issues, key frames portray Storm as significantly lighter skin. One of the clearest way this is shown is through the cover, which when compared to both the prior and following cover, makes Storm look much lighter by comparison. The cover is important as it acts as the most prominent form of marketing for an issue. It is also used as the framing device for the entire issue and is designed to encapsulate the overall narrative of an issue in a single page. In terms of Life Death, from its cover, it's very clear that it's being marketed as a love story, something that's quite literally written out on its cover. Within this context, Storm and Forge both want to be portrayed as desirable romantic partners. This ties Storm's new status as a love interest and a desirable woman to her lightness, reinforcing a colorist beauty standard. Life Death II is important towards examining colorism as it gives us a point of comparison for Storm's aesthetic as a black character. As Storm is the only black member of the X-Men, it's difficult to establish a framework to compare Storm's features to. However, in Life Death II, we see the introduction of a black community through the unnamed East African tribe. Through this comparison, we see Storm is far more light-skinned and how she further fits into white beauty standards. Hunter outlines the importance of the lightness in terms of beauty standards, stating that embedded in the leftover colonial structures is a strong and enduring value of the white aesthetic. She specifically mentions elements of this white aesthetic being light hair, light eyes, narrow noses, and light skin, all of which Storm possesses, particularly in comparison to the members of the tribe. This contrast between Storm's lightness and the East African tribe's darkness has wider implications in a colorist framework. Colorism has been used as the distinguishing factor between civilization and savageness. To quote Hunter, the maintenance of white supremacy is predicted on the notion that dark skin represents savagery, irrationality, ugliness, and inferiority. The white skin, and thus whiteness itself, is defined by the opposite, civility, rationality, beauty, and superiority. She continues by stating that dark skin is therefore associated with poverty and backwardsness. In the prior issue of Life-Death, Storm was immersed in the most advanced forms of technology through the character of Forge. As this is the preceding issue in the storyline, Claremont clearly wants the audience to maintain this association between Storm and technology, especially in comparison to the East African tribe, who embodied the backwardness and poverty outlined by Hunter. Majority, the tribe's elder and leader, describes their history with technology as them forgetting their old ways and becoming reliant on technology that eventually broke down and pushed the tribe nearly to starvation. As a result, the tribe has rejected almost all forms of technology and has returned to the old ways, with a heightened sense of the importance of tradition. This connection to backwardness or tradition is further enforced by having the oldest member of the tribe act as the tribe's representative. Furthermore, the association between darkness and poverty are reinforced through the tribe. The tribe are established to be so impoverished that they are at a point where they can only support an exact limit of people, and thusly every time a baby is born, the oldest member of the tribe must die to help maintain that limit. The final element in which colorism operates in Life-Death is through ethnic identity. Hunter states that one of the most complicating factors of colorism is that in many ethnic communities, people view darker skin as more ethnically authentic. Life-Death seems to concur with this narrative, as the East African tribe that Aurora comes across is the avenue for her to reconnect with her ethnic identity. Much of the conflict of Life-Death comes from Aurora's struggle to bridge her identities, specifically her African roots and her American home. Through this framework, the East African tribe acts as a metaphor for Storm's African identity. This is reinforced through Storm's ending monologue, as she states that she now views herself as a bridge between races and even areas of the world. As we mentioned prior, this East African tribe is notably darker skinned than Aurora, and therefore it can be understood that dark skin is being portrayed as a form of authentic African identity, and therefore that Storm's lightness is an allegory for her ethnic separation or even dilution. Life-Death is a unique, essential element of the Claremont run that has been rightfully praised for its nuanced storytelling and character evolution. But this does not make it immune to playing up harmful tropes and storytelling techniques. This is hardly an issue limited to the Claremont run. The casting of both Halle Berry and Alexandra Shipp as Storm were criticized as a form of lightwashing, as both actresses are biracial and are of lighter skin than Storm. Further, the film The New Mutants received backlash for erasing the African ancestry or dark skin of both the characters of Sunspot and Dr. Cecilia Reyes. Beyond the X-Men, colorism is implemented and reinforced in basically every social structure, from wage to marriage. Although this clearly can't be attributed solely to Life-Death, it's important to understand how narratives and portrayals that colorism is rooted in can be reinforced and maintained by the media.